evening, and welcome to another episode of The Turning Point, powered by U-Turn Youth Consulting. Tonight, as we've done for the past 4 years, I think it's 5, y'all, as the past 5 years, really talking about the Black Love series. We welcome you to grab a glass of wine, chill out, sit back, enjoy, because you have some dynamic speakers that will be taking us through what it feels like to be a Black woman in love, y'all. But love from many perspectives, so not just the romantic love, but love from many perspectives. Thank you for joining us, and we really hope you have a good time. So, here we are with 4 dynamic women with 4 different perspectives, 4 different lived experiences, all here for the purpose of engaging you in a conversation of better understanding what we're doing, where we are as a people, where we are as women. At this point, we all just feel targeted sometimes, but we ain't gonna get into that. Ladies, welcome, welcome, welcome. For those of you all that are coming back, welcome. Thank you for accepting the invitation. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for
I'm so
having
excited.
A minute ago, now it's like, well, so we're gonna start. So you wanna go first? No? Okay. Dr. George, we're gonna start with you first. An introduction. Who are you, real quick? We'll go around the room and then dive into the conversation.
Good evening, good evening. I am Dr. Jonette George. I'm a violence disruptor. That's who I am, interpersonal violence disruptor. Spend my days helping people end that cycle of violence in their life.
Ma'am.
Okay, my name is Georgette Spratling. I am a youth services librarian, but I serve as the assistant director at the North Miami Public Library.
Awesome.
Oh, hey, it's me. I am Makisha Murray. I am a branch manager at a bank. Name this right now. But I also serve as a mentor, and I just love being here for the community. So that's who I am.
Thank you. And our newbie in the room, the rookie in the room, Tia.
Hello, ladies. My name is Katia Pierre Bruno. I am an operations guru, if you will.
Yes, you are.
I have a daytime and a nighttime. My daytime is serving as an operations director for the Miami Workers Center.
Nice.
We organize tenants and domestic workers. And my nighttime / every other time is here, operations manager for U-Turn Youth Consulting.
Awesome. Welcome, ladies, again. For those who aren't sure what U-Turn does, U-Turn, the mission of U-Turn is really to highlight the backstories that contribute to the gun violence we're seeing in our communities. How then, based on what we've learned from our teen chats, from our young people, can we better assist the adults who serve our young people? As I always say, the young people got their issues, but the adults have their own issues, and oftentimes it's us not meeting young people where they are that allows to perpetuate what we're seeing. So let's dive into the conversation. We were having a lot of conversation off camera, and I guess the way I want to start the conversation, how are you all feeling, right, in this season, right? You notice everybody reaction.
Loaded
How are you all
question.
feeling? Because I know what we were talking about is the fact that we feel heavy, right? And then in the years past that we've done this, we're always talking about the soft life and you know how it feels to be in love, all that good stuff. But it just feels like the past couple of months have had us in a position where we feel heavy.
Yeah.
So who wants to take that first? Oh, everybody quiet now. Oh, wow.
Well, I was gonna go.
Go ahead.
You know, it's so funny because earlier today, I was just telling one of my staff members, he came into my office and said, "How are you feeling?" And I said, "I'm overwhelmed."
That's a good word.
But the funny thing is, I literally just came back from St. Martin, right? So I was trying to do the soft girl thing and, you know, breathe.
We're going to talk about all that.
Right, but I came back and it was like 10 times worse. So I am a little overwhelmed. I have school going on because I'm doing my PhD. I am a mother.
Awesome.
I'm a mother of 2. I recently lost my mom in July, which has put a strain on me and my sister's relationship. So now it's more so just me, you know, taking care of my 2 girls. Like it's not a lot of help. So I'm just on the go. And I'm trying to have this different type of lifestyle. I'm starting to work out early at 4:30 in the morning.
Catch me at 7.
And that's allowing me. Well, the kids
I'll
gotta
be
be in
there
school
6.
by 8, so I gotta make it. I gotta work it out. It is allowing me to be more motivated in the things that I do, and wanting to be able to do more things, but also understanding that I can't do everything. Right? I can't accept everything. Every time someone asks, "Hey, can you come speak at this conference? Can you do that?" I'm allowing myself to say no because I have a lot going on. Yeah, I got a lot.
I know. It's like I want to say so much because I get it.
I recently learned I am the chair of American Library Services Committee, and
How you recently learned that?
how did I recently know
They
what?
just told you the chair?
No. Well, before I had a lot going on, I said, "Yeah, I'll do it."
Yeah. Okay.
And forgot.
And at the end of one of the cycles, I asked them to critique me, right? And they told me, "You need to learn how to delegate. You need to stop trying to do everything on your own."
Yes.
Right? So in being the big dog or the person in charge, you feel like you have to take on everything because, well, for me, if I give it to other people, it might mess up, whatever. But me allowing people to critique me and to tell me what I'm doing that may not work, because I know sometimes we don't see ourselves, right? We can see everybody else and everything that they got going on, but we don't see ourselves. And me allowing them to be open and honest with me and tell me their critique on me and what I'm doing allowed me to be able to take some of the load off that I have.
Because you over here.
Yeah.
Because I just
And so that committee is full of the others.
Right.
And I figured, I'm gonna ask this question. They'll probably be a little hesitant to judge me because they don't know what they'll get back. But I felt like I have been open enough for them to understand that I am open to different opinions and things like that. And they gave it to me, and I was like, okay, girl. Okay, girl. So let me go ahead and give y'all this work.
Exactly, right?
Right.
Be careful what you ask for.
So my question is, why is it as Black women that we always have to go through something tragic in our lives as a loss in order to learn how to say no for our own mental health? See, and the reason why I understand is because my father passed about 2 years now, but it took up to that point for me to realize, all right, Makisha, you're taking on too much. You can't show for everyone. You cannot even be there. So imagine you being a mother of 2. I couldn't even imagine having that and still doing everything else that's on your plate. And first of all, I'm excited that you're getting up and going to the gym in the morning because that's what I do too. I get there sometimes 5, sometimes 6, but at 7 o'clock I'm already leaving to go back home to change to start the day. But yes, it's a season of being heavy. And for me, I think I came out of my season of heaviness, and so being with that, I'm kind of ready, but I'm still tired, And it's like, okay, you get a moment to rest, you go on vacation, but like you said, you come back and it's like you have to hit the ground, you have to fix everything that everyone messed up. You have to turn around and be like, okay, well, what are we going to do here? You know what? Never mind. It's going to take you 10 years to do it. It'll take me 1. Let me get it done.
Correct.
So I get that. And also, too, everything that's happening around us is very difficult, especially if you're always the person that has that joy. If you're always the person that brings, the excitement, the life into the room, and you have no one else to turn to be able to pour it back into you, Community is important, friends are important, family that we can call on is very important, especially for us to replenish in these times. And I think that's what we need to get back to, that community. That community.
Definitely.
So to that point, I'm gonna let you finish it. Miss Operation And the reason I came to you is because a lot of what they're talking about, the delegating, you and I have these conversations, right? Constantly, because Tia and I share that behavior that we have to do everything. And even when I'm asking her, what can I take off your load? She's no, everything is good.
Yeah.
But that's coming from somebody else that's got a plate.
Yeah, right. A plate I can see.
Right. So,
A tray of plates.
a tray of plates.
Right.
So for you,
Yeah.
in this moment, in this season, where does your heaviness come from?
I love this question because I feel like we constantly have to stop and assess what's that feeling we're feeling. You know me, I'm always centered, let's check in with our bodies.
That's center queen.
What's going on? Right. And I'm someone who is the right-hand person for two very, very eccentric, amazing leaders, but have many, many plates. So for them, I struggle with Shirley with this. I struggle with my ED with this a lot, where it's just kind of like, I have a lot to do, but I wouldn't dare tell you that because I know you have a lot more to do.
Right. That's
And I think the struggle with that is feeling the heaviness of like, not only do y'all have a lot to do, meaning we have a lot to do together, right? This team has a lot to do, but like we're being literally attacked right now. Like everything we're fighting for in both spaces that I'm in, everything we're fighting for is being attacked. So how do you hold that with like day-to-day operations got to keep going.
Right,
The bills
right,
got to
right.
stay, the lights got to stay on,
Right.
And the people I'm supporting, my community is struggling. They're in panic. Especially me being in operations, what I'm experiencing right now is everyone's like, what do we do if we get something happens, if we get
Right,
stopped?
right.
People who were never thinking about that are constantly, everyone's afraid. So for me, who's someone that is in charge of systems and making systems and structures, I'm in evaluation mode constantly to make sure that we have the tools prepared to withstand what's going on right now, and what does that look like when you also have to exist as a human being
Right.
in these
Your own
conditions
world.
yourself? I gotta go. I'm recently married, so I gotta go home to a husband and talk about my day to day, and we're both just like, what's going on? The world is burning.
Yes.
And I've got to make sure I go to bed on time to get back to it tomorrow for all the spaces I'm in. So I think I'm feeling a lot of heaviness, not only for what's happening in the community, but just like, how do I hold this, maintain my sanity, support amazing people, my community, these leaders, and also be like, delegate. And then delegate all of this because they're also going through it behind me.
Right.
So like it's a lot to hold. So I think the question that I'm asking myself right now is just kind of like, what's okay to drop?
Right.
What's okay to let go right now? Because there's fires over here.
Right.
Like what's okay to step away from and making that assessment and then moving forward.
That's a good point.
Okay.
This
So
violence interrupted.
I'm gonna stop this violent conversation. So back to what you were saying about why does it take a tragic, right? You know, I have my story last year. I shared more of it.
Yeah.
But I think too, what it comes from a place of we're from a lineage of getting it done regardless of. So we're ingrained as children. You're gonna get it done, and our parents didn't get, so they expect us to do what they couldn't do. So we're already trained and taught in our mind to do and supersede, and society says you have to do 10 times more because of the color of your skin. So we're in that mode, in that mode, in that mode. We say no, we figure it out, we get it done, we pivot, we move, until something tragic happens and we realize, listen, if I'm not here,
Right.
the people that mean the most won't have what they need.
Right.
And I'm busy doing everything else. So, you know, and I think it's what we've been taught. That's really
Yeah.
it, right? So even our kids, we need to train them and have the conversations, be real and be like, listen, I need you to center every day, evaluate your day. Like, okay, what worked well, what didn't work well? And how can I navigate my time and pivot and do something different and balance and say no, right? Back to where we are now, I feel targeted. I feel targeted because my work is targeted, my mission is targeted, my passion is targeted. Me, I'm targeted as a being just existing in this realm. So that heaviness is on my shoulders. And then I have people in the community that expect me to know what's next, right? You're the voice of reason. You're the voice of resources. You're the voice of, you know, restoration, right? You're all these R's, and I'm like, well, who's mine? Okay, hubby can do his part, but then there's a lot that he has that he's dealing with too, within his workplace. Again, all these, the letters that we can't say.
So to that point, I think both of you said targeted, and both of you said you both talked about some losses. And one of the conversations that we were having before we get to the target is when we are like this, right? We need to always remember that young people are sponges. So as little kids, they are absorbing.
Yes.
But as they get into the age of my son, 11, 12, 13, they're hitting that 14, 15, they're absorbing it in a different way. Because now they're about to release, we hope, a lot of what they had taken in, right? And the problem is, everything we're feeling, they're seeing. And we just feel as though, oh, they're all right, they're okay, when in reality, they're feeling the same fear. They're feeling the same hurt. They're feeling the same, being the mistrust, the being let down, and the not feeling adequate enough. So in this process, and this will be my first youth question, what do we say to the young people? Because we know we're heavy laden. And I know when I walk into spaces to have to do team chats, I find myself having to check myself so that that's not the side that shows up. I know we're always talking about how am I showing up? But I think it's a valid question. And all of you as leaders in your own spaces have to make that decision of how you're showing up. But to Tia's point, I don't know if there is anything I can drop because I drop and things fall apart. Right? So that brings us back to the first point. It feels so disconnected. It's a cycle. So I said all of that to say, Georgette, you deal with young people specifically in a very tough community at a library. You and the director, Paul, have done an amazing job making the library a welcoming space. I mean, young people don't like libraries. If you go to North Miami, at dismissal, they are in there. I mean, by the hundreds. They are in there. Even if they're not in the library, they're hanging out around the library.
That's awesome.
How do you show up knowing the possibility that many of these kids are undocumented? Somebody may show up and I want to card you. How legit are you, right? I know you deal with a lot of these young girls and young boys that are getting ready to go to college because you're big on that. A lot of them aren't gonna be able to go. So this space that you're in, how are you navigating that? Even before we get to the family part, how are we navigating that?
Well, my biggest thing, whether it be trying to navigate or figure out what's next for them, is communication. Just having conversation with them, being that adult that they can come to where they don't feel like it's restrictions, it's things they can't talk about. Meeting them where they are, right? And if they have these specific questions that you may not be able to answer, you know people that probably can. And you can bring them into the conversation, make them feel comfortable. This person is just like me. You don't have to worry about anything. I let them know what you needed. Here you go. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like conversation, communication, it makes them feel comfortable enough to have dialogue with you. And that's my biggest thing. If I can't offer anything, I can offer you a casual, meaningful conversation.
And that's important for a mentor. What does this look like?
Transparency. I think a lot of our parents often hide or they hid what they were going through and they were never open with us about anything. So even sometimes I might have hearts like with my goddaughters or some young ladies, I have real raw conversations. And having those conversations, it allows them to open up to be, all right, vulnerable about what they may be going through. We're in a day and age now where we can't sweep things under the rug from these kids anymore. We have to have this conversation, all right, well, what's going on with you? Tell me about this, the guys, the school. You have to be open with me. And I hope that as a mentor that I do that for those kids. Because if we don't have those conversations with them, then guess what? They're gonna go to their friends. They're gonna go to someone who they think, oh, they love and they care about me, when that's not the case. So I think that being transparent, having that open conversation with the kids right now, and sharing your story so that you're relatable with them. Let them know about what you go through. Like, I don't believe that we go through half of the things for us to just keep that knowledge or harbor it inside. It's be able to tell someone, look, I went through this, here's how I navigated through it. I'm big on being open and transparent. And I think that's what our kids need now.
Yeah, and when you have those conversations with them like that, the transparency, them giving you their trust, you don't have to ask questions.
They come and talk to you.
They come and talk to you. They'll find you. They'll find you.
And the biggest thing is no judgment.
None.
You don't make them feel like they're talking to
Correct.
a parent that's going to judge.
Judge
Create
at
that
all.
safe space.
I can't
that
tell you
safe
how many
space.
things I heard, and I wanted to say, "Girl, I'm gonna call your mama." But you know, you just give them that real raw response, not a judgmental response, but it could be a story,
Yep.
of something
Yeah.
that you may have gone through that may be similar to what they've gone through, and they're gonna remember that. They're gonna remember everything you said. It's just like with parents. You saying things 10, 11, 12 times, you don't understand why you got to keep saying the same thing over and over again.
They process.
Right. They will hear it
Yeah.
when it's time.
Correct.
So that's
And
like
it brings fruition when they're ready.
When they're ready,
Right.
exactly.
That's when you realize, oh, so you were
You were
listening.
listening
Right,
at
exactly.
the time. Correct, exactly. You heard them say it. Yeah. I wanted to add before you go.
Because I was coming to you too. Because
Oh, okay,
part
go
of
ahead.
your question for you as we're having this conversation is one of the things that we know is we deal with victims. We deal with a lot of victims. In this day, victims aren't coming forward.
No,
So these girls that are, whether it's being raped, whether it's whatever, they're not coming forward. Whether it's somebody did something, they're not coming forward. So that means you have young people that are suffering in silence and knowing that there's nowhere for them to go.
Correct.
Your work.
So, I didn't say it at the beginning, but it's Unmute Yourself is the organization that I work for, right? Doing the work as a violence disruptor. But to add to what you're saying, yes, the safe space, the communication, yes, the authenticity, the transparency, and the lived experience. The story is important because we need to model. The one thing that every human being learns best from is modeling. Seeing it, experiencing it, smelling it, feeling it. And telling our stories and how we show up, how we went through it, and how we are now is enough of a model for them to say, okay, I can do this, I can change. Even in this time now, even when like today I had a group I was mentoring today, and I rushed in and I came in and traffic and everything was crazy, and they're like, you are okay? I was like, I need a moment, I'm gonna sit, do my breathing and calm down. Dr. Mar's gonna talk to you first, I'm gonna come to you. And one of the girls was like, oh, you were over there meditating? I said, yes. I had to center myself, I had to, but it's, they're seeing me do what I say they need to do, and then they realize, okay, she's not just talking.
Right,
She
right, right.
living it.
She lives it
Yeah.
too, and that's what our kids need. There's so much fake out there. There's fake news. There's fake videos because all the deep fake stuff. There's so much
videos.
exactly everything's just fake. Exactly, fake bodies. Fake
What they call the baby hairs to your eyebrows? I'm sick of it.
I like the ones that's attached to the wig.
Right.
You can buy it.
You like those? I saw
That's
that.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much inauthenticity. They chomp at the bit for the truth. Like they get it and they're like, wait,
Right.
give me more, and you're like, oh, you don't have this in your regular setting, right? So that's one way. I think definitely the stories. You know, so long we live in shame about our stories. And like you said, okay, we didn't exist, go through it and overcome it to just sit here and keep it quiet.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
There's somebody else going through it. There's somebody else who's just like you who freaked out when they first saw the blood in their panties because no one told them what the cycle was. Right? How many kids to this day still don't know what that is and at middle school freaking out?
Yeah.
Right? So we have to be there, be in those spaces to, again, being mentors, and all of us are mentors in our own right. We are that second layer of parenting that they need. So as the quasi-parents, showing up with our real issues when we're hanging out with them. Like, yeah, today was rough at work. And I wanted to, XYZ her, but I had to go and take a moment and relax. And they're like, okay, so my mentor did that. When this girl tried to mess up, with the modeling. So I think that's important now.
So one of the words that was used earlier was the targeting, right? Tia, you talked about feeling targeted with the work, like both body of work that you're engaged in, you feel is being targeted. And I think it's an important point that I kind of want you to elaborate on, because I think all of us at some point in these past couple of months have felt, not that we didn't feel targeted before.
Exactly.
I want to say that up front. But the level of targeting just feels so much.
weight of it.
It's the weight of it. Right? I think
Yeah.
that is what is leaning on everybody's shoulder.
And the red dot when we walk outside, like knowing that your target is one
One
thing,
thing,
but
to
seeing
feel
it
like
and feeling it's right there,
right?
it's a difference.
I think I'd like for you to discuss that a little bit, because part of that too we're gonna be talking about how do we take care of ourselves feeling so targeted.
Yeah. I mean, with this new administration, right? Let's say the thing, because I don't know how to say the thing without saying the
Without
thing.
saying right.
You said the thing, so you said it.
Right.
You said it.
I don't know how to do that. So with the work with U-Turn, for instance, we do a lot of trainings, and we do conferences, trainings, and we have direct conversations called courageous conversations about, essentially, the letters that we shall not speak of, but also like what's really going on, what's folks' backstories, what's happening in their lives, and how can we connect that to how it's not only affecting our youth, but our systems directly, like how it's all related.
Right.
So with this administration literally chopping policies to the bits, and like we see in front of our eyes the thing that we encourage departments and other organizations to do, we're seeing that pulled away from them. So it's kind of like, not only that is it being pulled away from them, but it's just it's the concept of this is all wrong, throw it all away. You do not need these liberties, you do not need these rights, these justices, they don't belong to you because of what you look like and how you were born and all the things. So that being stripped away, and we've been doing the work to have folks empowered in that, it's just kind of like, all right, so what do we do now? We can't use certain language anymore.
Right.
Now we're focusing, I feel like, which is the plan, to changing how we look and how we talk, and how we're focusing on that, and
All to
they're
be
picking us
accepted.
up off the
Exactly.
streets.
All to be accepted.
All to assimilate.
right,
To
right.
assimilate what we should have done.
So
Yep.
not only are we distracted with the news and what's happening, like I literally had to unsubscribe from so many news outlets because I felt like every time I looked at my phone, it was chaos, and I was in a constant state of chaos. Not only that is like, we have to take time away from the mission, the vision, to change stuff, to have conversations we didn't have to have before, and to meet about stuff, and honestly to spend time in panic with each other. And
That's real though.
Right, exactly. It is.
And this is time away from the work. Like, this is time away from the conversations we could be having. This is time away from the structures we could be building. And I'm seeing that in both places, with the organization directly. Like, we are seeing less money come in because folks are scared.
Of course.
Folks are scared, not only scared in the sense of like, who are we associating ourselves with and all of that, but like, I don't know if I'm gonna have enough money to share because of what's happening, in the sense, it's not that I don't want to give it to you, but I might not have it at the end of the year, so I gotta reassess. So now we're seeing a lot of changes with that. So all in all, like, feeling targeted, it really is, like you mentioned, not only in my day-to-day, but at home, my personhood, because like I have immigrants in my family. Everyone's calling and like, hey, I heard you.
And everybody know you know that.
Right. All of a sudden, everybody know what I do.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, everybody know what I do. Right. Even though I've had to explain it many times. So it's just like folks are panicking at home. Folks are panicking at work. So it's just like the feeling targeted is very real because we are actually being picked up off the street. And I saw recently that there was. Now the government has this registry. You have to basically sign yourself up to be picked up. It feels like.
Yeah.
So it's
Like,
just
come
kind of
forward,
like that tells me two things. One, that what their methods, it's almost, some of it's not working. Something's
not-
going on, because
it's
if
not
they have to
working
do
well.
that, like what does that say about what your plan is now? And two is that, like, I wonder how many people will actually sign up, you know what I mean? Because of fear, or turning their cousins in and
Correct.
dads and brothers in
Right,
just
right,
for
right.
some type of incentive. So it's like, these are strategies meant to help break us apart.
Yes, I
And
was gonna say that. Definitely.
In that
That's
same
the part.
sense, that breaking apart, for us, we have to rebuild and focus.
Right.
Rebuild and focus.
And
at
that's the
same
hard
Definitely.
part, right?
Yeah.
That's the hard part because all of us are not equipped for that,
Right.
Right.
A lot of us are not equipped, and I think the word that we used earlier was distraction,
Right.
right? You utilized it.
smoke screen.
Yeah.
That's what my pastor said.
Yes.
So, you know, a lot of times smoke screens happen to confuse you, you know, and that's something that the enemy does. If we want to talk a little bit about religion in that space, it's to confuse you, to get you away from the mission, right? And then you also said something that was so powerful, like, all right, well, I can't really focus on one thing because everything is happening. And it's like, we can't do that. We wear many hats. But then you also said, all right, well, now there's dividing and separating our families. Wasn't that always the plan?
Exactly.
Didn't we also already overcome that? So I just feel like we're in a rebuilding stage. I think earlier in our conversation, you said, you know, we got to get back to the basics and see how we could rebuild our communities from scratch. It's starting here again. So I feel like it's just a rebuilding, and we're just like readjusting to be able to not conform, but to break the what they're trying to make us conform to find a way around it. As Black women, we learn how to arise, we learn how to figure out, so we can get back to the spaces of having the conversations of what we need to do. They did it in history. It's just history repeating itself. Nothing
But
really
we
changes
have more
except for our
tools now.
emotion in that time, and we're actually living it compared to what our ancestors have already lived. That's just my point on that.
I've definitely seen a lot of, don't forget, we are not our ancestors.
That part.
So don't think that we're going to lay down and
Right.
do what
And
you
they
think
didn't
we're
lay
going
down.
to do. It's not going to happen. Not that easy.
Yeah.
But I think there was a point that you raised earlier, Georgette, when you said part of that love, right? So we're talking about the breaking apart the families, the this and that. But even as we try to rebuild and try to keep families together, right? Part of the conversation too is how do we come back to stuff where people have been hurt? Right, so you want to come back, whether it was through a passing of a family member or somebody letting you down, or whatever it is. What we find that right now, besides the politics dividing people, there's real hurt in families, right?
Yeah.
And what we're also seeing, and I think Jeanette can speak to this, is we're seeing a repeat of that in the young people, right? Whatever's going on at home that's not healed, that hasn't been addressed, it's perpetuating because again, young people are sponges, right? So how do we, and I know you referenced earlier, you know, after the passing of your mom, like it's like you and your sister have talked, right? Your two daughters are watching that, especially if they have relationships with their auntie, right?
They
Same
love
thing
that.
with your cousin. You're like, look, I'm not here for the auntie part because that was what I had to cut off, but I'm gonna be there for my cousin, right?
Yeah.
How do we, and I think this was part of the conversation, right? How do we rebuild these relationships, these families, when we feel so heavy? And are those one of the things that we just drop and continue to learn?
You know, something my therapist had taught me was grounding.
Yeah, all the right words. Centering,
Yes,
grounding.
grounding. Yes.
I love it here.
I forgot the name of the book that she told me to get. And once I find it, I think it's called The Shadow something. I can't remember
Shadow
the
work?
Yes.
Shadow work?
Listen to me. That was one of the most powerful workbooks. It's like a workbook. When you go through it, it brings you back to like childhood trauma that triggers you. And when you go to the root cause of what triggers you, why do you feel abandoned? Why do you get upset when people hurt you? It really helps to give you a grasp on, all right, here I am in my life. What's really important? Okay, here's my issues. Here's the root cause. How am I going to move forward? For me, family is very important, but also too, if in a space of family, you realize that it's messing with your mental health, it's messing with you, your emotions, you individually, then you got to cut that off. And I'm quick to cut stuff off of my piece. You know why? Because I had to struggle to get this piece.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, nothing's going to cost me. Only Jesus himself, 'cause that's who I believe in, can come down and tell me, all right, look, you got to come talk to this person.
Right,
Now,
right.
there's a difference because I believe forgiveness helps, because I really believe that if we don't learn how to forgive people, then we walk around with hurt, we get sicknesses. I really believe you have to learn to forgive people, but genuinely forgive them. Now, in the space that you may not be close with your sister right now, but that has nothing to do with the kids. You get what I'm saying? So sometimes I feel as adults, we may be upset and we may be hurt with an individual and there's kids involved. Kids don't have anything to do with that. That's you and that adult's relationship. Make sure your kids go see whoever they need to, and make sure that you keep that important. Like history is important, family is important. Making sure that those things to keep us grounded is what's gonna help to elevate us to move forward in life. That's just, you know, my opinion on it.
Well, you know what? Let me rephrase what I said. So, in my opinion, it has put a strain on our relationship because, and I think it's more so because she's looking for comfort in something else, so she's not around.
Okay.
And I'm looking for comfort from her.
So
She's
that's
not around.
uncommunicated
After my mom,
expectations.
Right. After my mom, she's the next one. And between those two, I can honestly say, no matter what they have done to me that may have hurt me, because I can cut people. I'm an Aquarius. I will clean off, not care. I take care of myself. I don't ask nobody for nothing. So if I, but those two, I could, no matter what they did, I could never cut them off. And that, to me, that was to a fault. But I think more so because, and maybe this is something I have to unpack because therapy is a thing.
Yes, it is.
That I need to do. And I've been trying, but everything gets in the way. I think I need that, whatever that is that they had, I need that more than anything. And I don't know where else to get that. So that's why I never could cut either of them off. I don't know what to call it. I don't know what it
Real
is.
family
It's a real-
love.
I get
Real
that.
family
Yeah.
love. Yeah. That thing to get family
but
love.
I feel
Yeah.
too like you can get that, and it doesn't have to be from them. You never know who may walk into your life that you might meet yesterday that felt like it was years, you know, and they're gonna be able to fill that space and that void.
Right.
But sometimes we have to go through a season to walk alone.
Right. And again, I never cut my kids off.
No,
They
I know. I wasn't
They
saying
love
that.
her.
I was just saying that for the people, not you
Yeah.
intentionally.
Right.
Because I've seen grown adults like,
No,
what are
they
you
do, and they
doing?
use
That's
it
what I
and
said.
they
That.
go on. Correct.
But I would
Exactly.
never do that because, like you said,
No.
my children have nothing to
To do
do
with
with
the
adult
situation.
issues.
Grown
Yes.
folks here, we
Right.
get that.
Right.
No, but I think you all
It's
raised
valid
something
point.
that is valid, right? That a lot of times we use children
Mm-hmm.
as adults who are hurt. We will use children as a way to manifest our hurt. Right?
Yes.
Whether
Or
it's
pacify it.
or pacify.
That's
Whether it's in a
good.
relationship, if I can't have you, then the kids can't have you either, right?
Oh, my pet
And then we wonder why these kids don't view relationships
That's
how we
exactly.
do them, right? Because to your point, the example, the modeling that we have put out. But I also want us to be mindful that when we're talking about being heavy, if you all notice in the past couple of months, all we've been seeing is moms and abusing their children and turning,
Yeah.
you know, kids are ending up dead and you know, like you're sitting here asking, this is a mom and a child and the bond. Like, how do
Right.
we go
Yeah.
from what we were taught to what we're seeing now?
So back to what she was saying, not to cut you.
No.
The distractions
Yes.
are bringing fear and concern and worry, and then we're detracted from each other because we start to be individualistic, and it's me versus you too with some mothers and their kids, because you were, if I didn't have you, I wouldn't have to do all this other stuff,
Yeah.
and you aggravating me, and you know we all heard it. I brought you into the world. I'm gonna take you
Yeah.
out, and people do
We
it.
say it.
We say it too, right? Exactly, right? So there are people who are now acting on that, you know, and you know, you when you have a conversation with some of them and you actually connect with them, you're like, what made you do that? And it's again because the child is my burden.
And that's how you know words are powerful. That I brought you in this
Ooh,
world.
yeah,
and
to take you out. Yeah.
And now you as an adult with children, now you want to be an individual and you letting these things happen to your children
Right.
because
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
take them out.
Yeah, you
Right.
take
So
them
you
out.
can do what you want.
Going to do exactly.
But if I further the conversation, we have young people now who are so fearful, right? Because like what we were talking about before, who don't know that they're undocumented,
Exactly.
who don't know their lived experience because parents have not
Not shared.
been authentic with them, who as they're finding out on their own are figuring, let me do some things so that at least I'll get to stay here with them. I mean, that's not necessarily the case. And I say that as an example that for lack of proper information,
Yeah.
everything becomes reality.
Of course.
Even when it's
Oh my
even
gosh.
when it's false on every level. So I think the first thing we need to be mindful of is own up to how we're really feeling, right? Own up to I'm heavy, I'm hurt, I'm this, I'm that, because the more we own up, it allows us to show up differently, particularly in front of our kids. Before we even talk about community, how we show up in front of our kids.
Exactly.
Like some of the stuff I'm watching parents do with pickup lines, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what's happening right now? As a people, what are we doing? Or the way we're showing up to the schoolhouse, representing your
the
child.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're asking yourself like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, what's happening right now? Like,
come
what
here
world
like this.
are we living in?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is how you thought it was okay to come represent, even if you didn't care about representing you.
Your whole family.
But you're representing
Your
an
child, your
entire
family.
family,
Yeah.
a lineage, because that teacher don't know you from a can of paint,
Right.
except for how you show
Yeah.
up.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I keep going back to the conversation of how we're showing up is also adding to how we're being targeted,
Yeah.
right? Because people are drawing their own conclusions,
Mm-hmm.
don't know us, don't know what we bring, what we can bring, and I always say this in training, before I open my mouth for you to say, oh, she's intelligent, you're judging me on what I look like.
Correct.
Right.
And it seems as though we've lost
Yeah.
that. Maybe it's the distractions, maybe it's the fear, maybe, I don't know what it is, but as women, I think there's a burden that we carry. It just feels like we all throwing it up in the air and saying, well, let
Whatever
it
it is.
fall where it may, and then, but yet, again, these expectations aren't realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so much. I feel like, being a person of prayer, intercession, and I feel like in the moment we are the intercessors for the
Ooh,
generation.
Of course.
And so we're heavy and we're burdened because we see our sisters going out and the booties hanging out, the satin caps on their head, the lashes way out here, and they're showing up to the school. Hey, there's a difference. I wear my lashes too, but there's a difference.
different.
We don't have to look like snuffleupagus. Like, it's unnecessary.
I say that all the time.
There's a balance to how we present ourselves, and the thing is like social media plays such a big
Yes, I was gonna
part
say that,
in
yeah.
everything. I mean, these kids are just mimicking what they see on social media, not realizing that it's real.
But wait,
Right.
they're not just
Not
mimicking
real.
it on
It's the
social
music,
media.
too.
They
It's the
so,
music.
They're mimicking it in real life.
life.
Because
In
they're
life,
walking
yeah, it's
around.
like doing the
I'm
same
Looking
thing.
That's-
like social media.
Right, so they see that and they think that is life.
Correct.
Like,
Correct.
that's the
Yeah.
way
Right.
that they're supposed to show up outside. And no one anymore is taking it back to the grandma's generation.
No.
We were probably the last of a dying breed when our grandparents
Nope.
could have been around, or the elders, or whoever was there to correct us.
We
Or
don't
even
have-
if it wasn't, we don't have that.
We don't have that anymore. We don't have
And that's
have
what's
gray hair
missing.
grandmas. We don't.
Right, but that's why it's important as a mentor to make sure you show up a certain way.
Right.
Yes,
Right?
Time.
correct.
So even if they're getting that at home with their mom doing the
They
things,
see something different.
they see something else that's
Yes.
different. They can model themselves after what they see that they like that is different. You what is it? They say you can't be what you can't see.
correct.
Right.
Yes.
But
So
so
if
I'm gonna
they're
add to
seeing
that.
you and seeing what you're doing and seeing you showing up as a particular type of person, a professional, and they know there's a difference.
Right.
But the challenge is they're with you 2 hours.
Correct. And gotta go back.
You got to go
home.
back to that environment, and it's all over social media, and it's
Yeah.
all over the home.
But
right?
that's all it takes.
So I know, but I think not just the youth, we need to pull the parents out.
Decide.
yes.
We need to start pulling the parents out because the parents aren't being held accountable. They expect the teachers to do everything at the school. They expect they literally expect the mentors to do everything.
But then that's what we're doing. Y'all are talking to the parents. The kids ain't gonna be the one watching
Of course,
this.
of course.
They're not the
And,
one
and
watching this.
yeah, and the parents they need to be parents.
Right.
And if they need help,
Ooh, can I tag team on that a minute?
yeah.
What is our thought? Because I'm a firm believer that there is a time for the friendship
Mm-hmm.
from a parent,
Right.
and there's a time when I need you to be the parent.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems like since we've moved away from gray-haired grandma and grandmas and grandpas being all
Mm-hmm.
intricate, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are two schools of thoughts that I'm hearing now. One, I refuse to raise my child the way I was raised. Right? Almost as if it was the worst thing in the world.
Right.
Mhm.
I'm coming to you. And then the second school of thought is, well, if I'm their friend, I can give more out of them. But even in that friendship, there aren't boundaries.
Correct. They're
Right?
not.
And I'm okay, y'all want to dress alike, that's cute.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if we go into the club together,
That's a problem.
Mm-mm.
But that's the pacification. That's the pacifying I'm using you to get what I need to get. And so we're friends.
Right.
I don't have girlfriends. I don't have, but you my bestie, and we talk about everything. No, everything,
Yeah.
right? And then, and because we talk about everything, you think you and me at the same age, and we
I can't discipline that.
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
very difficult because I have created this
Yeah.
level where now you think we're equal.
Exactly.
Because we can talk about everything. Tia, when I said I want to be raised like my
Bruh.
grandparents, so you're the youngest person on here. Go
I
ahead.
know, right? As someone who doesn't even have kids, but who plans to have them at some point soon, I think about that all the time, especially like seeing people who are parents now, thinking about my own parents. I'm just like, all right, it's this huge contradiction in me when I think about like how I am, and I'm like, I would love a kid that's just like me. Like, I would love that.
I know, right? I
get
forget when
it.
you're terrible.
Right. And I'm only thinking about it as far as the like, man, I was a great daughter. You know what I mean? Like, I was a great daughter. My parents don't even know how good they had it. But when I think about my childhood being brought up, I constantly struggle with like, in spite of, right? In spite of. So it almost feels like it was accidental. Like there was not the intention for me to be who I am today, but I had to be that despite the circumstances my parents were experiencing.
Right.
So like I like to call myself a first and middle child because like I'm not the first child my parents had, but I'm the first child they raised together in a home. So I was conditioned as a first child. So, which means if you're a first child, especially a first daughter, you know what that means. You're the office manager, you're the household manager, you raising the little ones,
Yes.
and all of these things. And like I think about it all the time. Like my parents, right? My mom specifically right now is like, you ain't got no kids. What's going on? Like you're lazy.
Hurry up. Yes.
You're late. Yeah,
Yes.
you're
Correct.
late. My mom's like,
Correct.
you're late. I need 2. You're behind. But I'm also like, well, I had to raise my little brothers. I feel like that time was taken from me. Therefore, I want to take my time as an adult to live the life and all the things. And it's just kind of like, oh, now you want me to have kids and all these things, but there's no connection to how, like, why I feel the way that I do about kids or why I want to wait and all these things. So when I had to sit down and talk, I'm like, because of what I had to go through, this is impacting decisions I make today.
Ooh, that's powerful. That's powerful.
Like, and they're like, what? And you know, our parents, the generations
Yeah.
before us, they ain't do nothing
Now
wrong.
that means like you blaming them.
Right.
You blaming them.
Exactly.
I did the best for you. Yeah.
I ain't do nothing wrong. But then I see my nieces and nephews, and I'm like, they're being raised in the sense of like, I got to give you everything. You can't struggle at all.
Yes.
Like, but now, like, they're iPad babies. I'm like, to talk to you, like, emotional, social relationships look like they need a lot more work because they have everything they need. Like, they have iPad
Everything
babies,
they want.
everything they want.
Correct.
Yeah, right.
For them, it's everything they need.
Right.
So everything they want, they like. So it's just kind of like, wow, where's the balance? Like, I'm not a parent, but these are the thoughts that I have to consider when raising a
I
child.
think that is powerful.
Yeah.
Because we often don't take those perspectives into consideration. That being said, right, the idea that our backstories don't matter. They actually
do matter.
do matter.
They do matter.
Not only do they matter in our present, and who said the word resilient earlier? It was
Both of you.
Oh,
Everybody. Probably all
but even in that ideology, we don't realize that what we've lived absolutely determine the decisions we make tomorrow.
All the
So
time.
true.
100%.
Right? Because I know when I was like, I don't want kids. I didn't want kids, and then I struggled because I grew up as you know, I have 3 older brothers, but I grew up as a single child, right?
Yeah.
So my only sibling that was here
Yeah.
was my bestie, right? Who was another single child, right? So, but now you can't separate us. We've lived our lives almost as if we came from the same womb. But at the end of the day, I remember saying, I did fine by myself.
Right.
I don't need 2, 3, and 4 of them. Why?
Right.
And lo and behold, I only have one, right? So that's why I say be careful when you ask someone like you, because sometimes I look at him like, ooh, boy, if you remind me of me. But I really want us to realize that the term home is a fully loaded term, right? Because home ain't safe for a lot of people. The term family, especially in these days, they're fully loaded terms, and I don't think we take the time to realize how much impact they have on us. So they showed me all the signs, 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
I want to ask y'all this. We're heavy. We feel targeted. We know all the right words,
Right.
right? Mental health is a thing. Therapy is a thing, right? Centering yourself, grounding yourself, and you know you have to find yourself sometimes and know when to inhale and exhale. I love all that. Everybody's sitting on here exercise. 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock, yoga, and all the other
Whatever,
stuff.
yes.
I get it. I'm with it. 4 miles, and I get it. But yet still, in spite of all of that, we struggling. So I guess the next term I have to utilize, and it's a term that I struggle with all the time, because I don't feel we should have to be resilient. How? Because in my mind,
That's good.
I don't feel we should have to be resilient. You know how people are like, well, I want to live the soft life.
I've been praying for that.
Look, everybody want to live the soft life. I
Exactly.
don't think many people want to work 2-3 jobs,
No.
right? Or be a single parent. Or,
Correct.
but here we are, to your terms, in spite of, right? Here we are. So the same thing about the resiliency, I just feel like, well, I gotta be resilient, because resilient means I have to go through things, I
Right.
have to rise up
Gotta be
in
hard.
spite of, it's gotta be hard
gotta
in
be
order
hard.
for me to rise.
You're black.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say
Oh, yeah, everybody wanna chime in.
many are called, but few are chosen.
Chosen. That's
Lord,
true,
don't
right?
remind me of
Yeah.
that.
And I think
Yeah.
we're so resilient, well, at least for me, is because you get so sick of being let down.
Ooh,
Yes.
'cause that's
So
where I
you
want to
just,
go.
Yes.
you just do
Yes.
it on your own.
Oh,
Like
you
I'm the
get it
type
done.
of person where somebody says they're gonna do something for me, I'm like, okay, good, but I make sure I'm
You
prepared
ready
to
for
do
Correct,
it.
Yeah.
exactly.
Just in
My
case.
twin.
So it's
Yes.
like, you have no choice but
Trust,
to be resilient.
trust,
Because
yeah.
you have trust issues. Like you said, you want to live the soft life. You get in a relationship, you kind of got to give up some of that stuff. But how you give it up when they constantly letting you down, you know? And I guess you gotta kind of be, you know, you gotta change
She's
things.
like,
You
no,
gotta
I'll
be
switch.
open. You
Yeah.
gotta change your mind about a lot of things. But it's hard to do that when you've been doing this by yourself for so long.
So then you do it, and you know you do everything that the people that are telling us to do.
Right.
You got to do soft life, and you have to be submissive, and you have to give him an opportunity to lead. Y'all see, I done already shifted. We done left the kid. Now we talking about the real relationships,
Yeah,
right?
but it's true.
And then you let down, and then the person go missing, and then when you needed them the most, they don't. They don't pick up the phone. They don't show up. Whatever it is, these are part of that black love. This is what makes our love so. It's not that other people don't feel it, but what I'm saying is, in addition to all the heaviness, this is what we're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
You over here whooping and whopping.
So I went to a conference, like I'm just in the season to go into conferences, and I love it. So I went to a Jamaican Women's Conference, and one of the ladies were married for 25 years, and she said, I changed probably to 7 or 8 different people while I was in this marriage, right? But she said, what I love about my husband is that he never forced me to be anyone that I didn't have to be. He just allowed me to be and watch me evolve.
That's powerful.
And
That's a man.
that's a man, right?
Exactly.
So in my head it's like, okay, well, if the Lord did it for her, right? And then, I mean, even to something you mentioned, that's also one of my fears, I guess, too, with the relationship. Is like, okay, well, am I going to be able to lay down all these hats? And I think, all right, you know what? We're going to lay it down.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we, and I could speak for that because been through one and then another one. You gravitate to what feels right. It feels comfortable. It sounds and it smells good. And a lot of times it's connected to our past that we haven't resolved. Right? So it's that familiar place of toxicity, but we don't realize it's toxic yet. But it just feels right in the moment. And then we gravitate and we stick in, and then we get let down.
Because everything is always
Because,
good at the beginning.
yeah. But it wasn't, correct.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the genuine or authentic or the right thing for us. And we're not taught to court. We're not taught to pay attention to
Behaviors.
certain behaviors and dynamics. And then the other thing is, if you don't know because I have many people that come through trauma coaching and did not realize and know that they were molested 3 or 4 till we start going through the book or the session or the conversation, the questioning. So we don't even know what we dealt with trauma-wise. And then because it's locked in, yeah, because your brain is protecting you. So we create these unseen trauma bonds with the wrong person that lets us down. We're like, well, what is it? Well, you actually had a trauma bond. You just didn't realize it.
See, y'all use a big term.
So, okay, so you connect for the wrong reasons
Right,
in your
right,
past.
right,
Yes,
right.
yes, yes.
But as you grow and you go through things and you start learning yourself, you start realizing, okay, I know what stage this is, so
Correct.
I'm not going to go past where I want to go past.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to let this person show up how they are and just give it some time. They'll start showing you
Yeah.
what's
They're
really
authentic.
real.
What's real.
Yeah,
Exactly,
'cause you
exactly.
can't do it for so long.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
If it's
Mhm.
fake, it's not going to last
Correct.
long at all.
Correct.
So, I just let it ride. Let's see where we're going to go.
Yeah.
So these
Patience.
patience. So
Yes,
these last
yes.
couple of minutes, as I always say to you all, we had a conversation amongst ourselves, right? And it's intentional in these conversations to not feel like it's not an interrogation. This was a group of women just sitting down,
Yes.
chopping it up, like the
Yeah.
guys like to say, right? As we close though, yes, we are in Women's History Month. And yes, we're talking about Black women, Black love. And, we use the term heavy, resilient, targeted. What's the message that we want to give to a woman who's watching this, or a man who may be watching it, who's come across me like, let me hear what these women got to say now, because I know they bashing us, right? But at least something that they could take back. What do we say to a fellow sister to navigate this, right? Navigate it as a woman, navigate it as a mom, navigate it as a single woman, navigate it as a professional, a daughter, a sister, because so much is asked of us. And the reality is we rise to the occasion every time. May not always get it right, but we rise to the occasion. What's our verbiage? What's our word to them? What's our departing words of, it can't be resilient. It can't be resilient, because that means we gotta go through it. So I'm not gonna let it be
No.
resilience. I really want y'all to think about what is that term that we want you to walk away with and know that you're not alone. We're all in this together. What does that look like?
I would say self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
And I would say the portion of the scripture that says to know thyself. And who you are is not your job title or your degree or who you are showing up for other people. Who you are is who you are in your rawest sense before that relationship, before that job, before that college degree. What do you really like? What do you really enjoy doing? Like, find yourself, because when everything else is spiraling, that's your true safe space.
I don't have a particular term, but I would say quiet the noise and listen to yourself. See how it makes you, whatever decision you have to make, sit with it and see how it makes you feel and go with that. Go with that, because it's easy to listen, to hear, to see what other people are doing, and you don't really know how you really feel about it. But if you sit with yourself and you make that decision, and that, to me, that involves prayer as well. You make that decision, and that's going to always be the decision that you were supposed to make.
And I add to that before you go. Remember that we have more than two decisions that we can make. We tend to think it's left or right, up or down, in and out, right? We have as many decisions as we can be, as many choices rather, as we can create in our head when we're making decisions. So don't pigeonhole ourselves to just two.
It's within you. Everything that you need to get through whatever season, you've already been built for it. And it's just to take in, like you said, quiet the noise, figure out your decisions, and then make a decision based on one, prayer, guidance from God, and know that you've been built for this. You've been built for this.
Definitely.
For me, what's coming up, and it always comes up, my U-turn people will know, is name your needs. Say the thing.
Say the thing.
Name your needs, because a lot of the time I feel like women like us, like, we be going through the things and we struggle with delegating and all the things we talked about, but it's also like, if I need a moment to spiral, say that. Take a
take that
moment.
time.
Name what you need in that moment and be honest with what that need is.
So I think everything you all just heard is very important. So the woman that's on the other side of the phone, the iPad, wherever you're following us or watching us, I think you got 4 really dynamic answers. Say the thing. Go in prayer. It can be more. It's not an either or, and it's not 1 or 2. It can be multiple. But I think one of the ones that I'll take away is quiet the noise. Right? There's a lot of noise right now. There's noise in the household, there's noise in the country, there's noise politically, there's noise in our spaces. But what I would add to the amazing comments these women just made is know that you're more than enough, right? That at the end of the day, and I know we use those terms a lot, but I don't think we realize that we were created for a time such as this.
Yes, you were.
The difference is how we approach it
Yeah.
is going to determine how we survive and thrive through it.
Very good.
So
Very much so.
this session, this moment of just a group of women getting together to chat it up was really to let you know we see you, we hear you, we validate you because you know what? We are you. Just that we may all just be in different times and different places, but ultimately we are here for the same purpose. And that is to rise above and to be better than what we were this morning, better than how we started yesterday, but more importantly, understanding that we can't be our best selves as a mom, as a mentor, as a leader in this community, as friends, as sisters, as whomever, until we begin to take care of ourselves. So to each of the sisters that are sitting here, we are better because of one another.
Yes.
We are better because we
Definitely.
can actually call each other out.
Yes.
Dr. George will tell you, I walked up and I said, what the hell you did to your hair? But it was all out of love, right?
That's right. Right.
And Katia, I'm like, will you ask for will you say you need help?
Yeah.
No, but it really is all out of love, understanding that my strength comes from Katia, it comes from Dr. George, it comes from Jeanette, it comes from Keisha, it comes from the team that surrounds you. So my takeaway for you as you walk away from this is one, be very, very careful who you allow to pour into you. Who is in your immediate space, because that will also be what propels you forward or what drags you down. You are greater than anything you are facing right now. And on behalf of U-Turn, unmute yourself, the library, Miami Workers Center,
U-Turn.
and U-Turn, and the places we won't name, on behalf of all of our partners, we celebrate you on this, Women's Heritage Month. We celebrate you for
Celebrate
being
you.
the queen that you are.
Yes.
But more importantly, we celebrate you for striving to be the best you so that you can be the best you for your community. Thank you for spending time with us. We hope that you found this fruitful. We hope that there were some nuggets you could take away. We hope you'll join us for the next one. Thank you for joining us on this Turning Point, powered by U-Turn Youth Consulting. Have a good night. Thank you, ladies.